Janet, are you seeing the Why We Talk?
Yes. Yep, I can see it. And we are ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Young. I am the Community Prevention Specialist in Carbon County. And what that means is that I work with the Carbon County Prevention Network. And this is a website that is a wonderful resource for all things prevention. It is a statewide website. And today I just want to walk you through the website. There's lots of resources, education, and just really good information for specifically parents is who this is targeted towards, but it's a great resource for educators and anybody that works in the public and works with youth. We really are hoping that you can utilize this resource in your field, in your agency. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about the Why We Talk website. So this is the website. As you can see up here, it's WY We Talk, and it's a nice play on words. We wanted people to think about why we talk about the things we talk about. So starting a conversation is why we talk. And we use the WY so that we start to open dialogue in Wyoming. This website's been around for about 5 years. In just the last 3 months or 4 months, we revamped, the website was revamped. There's an ad agency in Casper that does all the work on this website. And they revamped it to include a little bit more about vaping and some other topics. And I will lead you through the entire website, where you can find the resources and why it's such a valuable tool for us as community members and parents and organizations out there in Wyoming. So this button here where it says find local help, I am in Colorado right now, and so I'm coming to you from a different state. So when I clicked on it this morning to see what would pop up, nothing pops up. But I do know that when you click on it, will pop up local Wyoming resources. But there's also other resources that I'll show you where you can find those resources on this website. So like I said, starting a conversation is why we talk. We really put this together to be able to give people tips and tricks on how to talk to their kids. The very first thing, this is the home site, the home page, and the first thing is tips and how to talk to your child. You click through this, right time, right place, start the conversation, listen actively, and be honest. And there's little tips. I won't, take a ton of time on each of these, but you can see it really starts leading you down the path so that you have, it's just a really nice laid out way to do this. And I thought there's a couple ways to maneuver this. Again, we're on the home site. If you click here, you can see here's the different tabs that you can go through. But those tabs are also later on this page as well. So how to talk to your kids, where to start. It just kind of gives you an idea of what the website is and why it's important. And then here are those same topics that you can do in the drop down box as well. And then as you go down, there's helpful resources. And this is talking about 988 as our suicide crisis lifeline. The crisis text line is texting home to 741-741, and then Wyoming 211. So another great resource in Wyoming is Wyoming 211, and that is resources across the state and locally. And that's you can also just Google Wyoming 211 and you'll get there. And then who we are, and this was created by the Wyoming Prevention Action Alliance and Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. Here's some information here if you want to contact about the website and the details within the website. And then another cool thing is if you click on Toolkit, this will take you to a Google Drive. And right here are all resources for that you can print and utilize yourself. There's some videos, display ads. There's stuff that we can use on social media, or anybody can use them. These resources are for anybody. They're just a really, it's just all in one place, so it's very simple and easy to find. So then going back to the website, so we can either click here and we can go into underage drinking, or as I showed you before, we can go down here further, we can go back up to the different topics here. So when we click on underage drinking, it's gonna take you to, maybe, a little slow, it's gonna take you to underage drinking. And here we've got different tabs under here. So why we need to talk about underage drinking. So we're gonna talk about opening that communication and why it's important. And then here is just some data. So facts about alcohol. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey, for those of you that follow the coalition, I've been talking about data and what's available within Wyoming. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey is a national survey. Wyoming does not participate in the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, but this is a national just snapshot of how high school students are consuming alcohol. So in the last 30 days, third leading cause of death, teens who drink heavily are 3 times more likely to try to hurt themselves. So here's just some facts about alcohol, and a good place to start if you want to know why this topic is important. And then here we move down, it's going to lead you through contributing factors. And again, for those of you following the network, these are some of the risk factors that we have been talking about. So there's peer pressure, or when you go over peer pressure, it talks about peer pressure and what that means. So each of these topics has just a little blurb on what that means and how it pertains to our youth. So again, all of these are different risk factors that we're looking at within our youth when it comes to underage drinking, lack of awareness, family influence, mental health conditions, and lack of supervision are these ones down here. And again, if you, and then we go down here, and this is one of the newer things that's kind of, I don't want to say fun, but it's very interesting. So identifying terminology. So we all think that we're hip and up on the language, but even I, every time I look at this, I think, oh, I really don't know. So when you see a text, you know, from your kiddos, I'm bringing Sarah to the kickback tomorrow. You know, what does that make you think? So here you highlight, you go back over and it says, bringing Sarah to a low-key party. Do you have a plug for tonight? One of the things that can mean is, do you have somebody to buy us alcohol? Where are we drinking before the party? So where are we that means pre-gaming. We're going to get lit tonight. We're going to get drunk tonight. So down here, and then it also, as you can see, there's word scrolling, know the word, rager, sloshed. So knowing some of the terminology is just something to think about. So if you, if you're wondering what the language is, or there's some good resources here to just start thinking along the lines of what that language means. And then what does it look like? It's important to know the signs. Here are some things that, computer is being very finicky today. So know the signs that your teen is at risk of underage drinking. You click on this, and it takes you to this, and here you can just click through, know the signs that your teen is at risk of underage drinking. So frequently going to sleepovers after they go out, constantly chewing mints and gum, inconsistent in their plans for the evening, experiencing school problems, lying, breaking curfew, stealing, switching friends. And these are just the top ones as we, and there was a lot of research done on this, with different data sources. And like I said, Callan, who also does everything for our network, has done a lot of work on this to make it evidence-based, and so that, and then just you click on each of these. So if you want to learn where your teen might be getting alcohol, or here's how your teen might be hiding alcohol, understand the physical signs that your teen could be drinking. And again, I won't click through every one of these. We would be here for a while, but every one of the topics has these. And so here's a pulse check. And this is kind of a nice, if a parent has gone through the website, and so it's just sort of, there's just more and more interactive things that you can start thinking about. So here's some conversation starters. How are you feeling about school? What's been on your mind lately? These are just some conversation starters, again, for you to start those conversations with your teens. And then it even goes deeper into conversation tips by age. So we start with middle school, and here's just some tips on what you can talk about with your middle schooler, the appropriate language, things like that. It's just really a roadmap to talk to your kids about these topics. And then young adult, so college age is what we're looking at. And then here's an action checklist. So the whole goal of this is to give people actionable steps to be able to talk to your youth. And if you go here to a downloadable version, this is a PDF of that checklist. So you can kind of, I like checklists, so have you set a good example, develop family rules, some of those things. So just another action checklist that you can look at. Again, just another tool. And this PDF is also in that Google Drive. So everything that is an extra link, you can also just go to the Google Drive. They tried to put it in as many places as possible, so it was easy for people to click on and go back to. And then if you need more help, there's some more information. And then you can even go down to the bottom. And are you ready to talk to your child? Test your knowledge here. And it just leads you through a couple of questions to see if you feel like you're ready to have that conversation. Again, everybody learns differently, and everybody wants to participate differently with their kids. And so there's a lot of interactive stuff on this website, just giving you the options that are available out there. So this is underage drinking. And like I said, it's very similar for all of them. The next tab is suicide prevention. And it's very similar, a lot of the same discussions about mental health. So it does talk about why we talk about suicide, why it's important for us to have this conversation. And you can see the Find Local Help popped up. So on every page, Find Local Help pops up, and it's resources for that specific topic. And again, it starts with the facts. Arm yourself with the facts so that you know that you have some data behind what you're saying. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death among teenagers. In the US, 20% of high school students have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. And again, for those of you that have been following the network, we've been talking a lot about mental health in our teens, and we're sort of in the top 5 for all of those risk factors around mental health for our teens in Carbon County. So this part is really important. They're all really important, but this seems to be an area where our youth in Carbon County are struggling. And so these are also really, really great facts. Here's contributing factors. So some of the things we know that lend to suicide ideation, thoughts of suicide, mental health conditions, and again, when you go over these, it goes into those conditions just briefly. It talks about bullying or peer victimization, family problems, academic pressure, and again, all of these, we call them risk factors, loss or trauma, LGBTQ+, and then substance use. So these are the risk factors and the areas that we need to be concerned with in our teens' lives. And again, here's that cell phone again, and identifying terminology. Suicidal ideation is in the presence of thoughts. So here again, I can't take it anymore. I understand you're going through a rough time, let's talk. So here's a conversation, better off without me. You're really looking for some of those key phrases that people have ideation, but maybe they don't even know that it is ideation. And so this website really tried to include some of that terminology so that parents have an idea if they're hearing those things, they know what questions to ask and where to find some resources. And again, if you're here for a minute, you can see it scrolls through some of the phrases. I'm just tired of it all. I don't see a way out. Some of those phrases. And again, you have to be open and honest, and so you have to know these phrases and you have to be able to ask your youth about them. And this website really is giving you that education and that background to be able to feel comfortable to have these conversations. As comfortable as you can, let's put it that way. But it's not a comfortable conversation and it's not easy. So what does it look like? Know the signs, and this one just is a little bit different than the last one, but it does lead you through know the signs. Here's what you might be looking for. It leads you through just behavioral changes, emotional distress, verbal cues, preoccupation with death, sudden changes in routine or appearance, giving away possessions, risk-taking behavior. And so there's 7. On most of them, they tried to be consistent and have 7 sort of risk factors or conversation pieces that you can look at. And then you go down here, again, anything interesting happens. So just again, your child has not responded in a positive manner, it's okay. Here's a pulse check to ask another day. So again, just really arming parents and those of us that work with youth with conversation starters and things that we can utilize. We don't have to be nervous about trying to come up with these things ourselves. This is a really great resource just to give you a starting point. And then again, it goes into conversation tips by age for suicide, engaging in conversation with suicide for middle schoolers, and then it goes into high school and young adults. So, and more conversation tips. So if you click here on conversation tips, like I said, there's lots of links embedded, but you can also go to that. So this is suicide prevention. So these are printable. You can print them yourself, or if it's something that the network wants to get a bunch printed that we can hand out, that's something we can do and have available for people, but it's just something to have in hand. So if you guys work with parents or you work with youth, here's just something you can have in front of you for those conversation tips and tricks. And again, those links are embedded throughout, so it's easy to get there, or the Google Doc is always available. And what I've done is I have the Google Docs as a tab in my Google Docs, so that I can always go look for these resources if people ask me for them. So I don't always have to go to the website, and I sort of have those in front of me. And again, young adults, so that college age. And then here again is an action checklist and a downloadable version. So so that you have that in front of you. Again, if you like to check boxes, this is a great tool to have available. And the regional map, there's a regional map when you find local help, but like I said, since I'm not in Wyoming today, it won't pop up for me. But and then again, there's a quiz at the bottom, just to help you feel like you're maybe ready to have that conversation. And it's just have you read through? Do you feel like you're comfortable with the topic? Could you have a conversation about this? The next tab is substance use. And this one is pretty in-depth. So the reason we went with substance use is that there's lots of things, as you can see, that are a part of the substance use. We separated out alcohol because it feels a little different. And then the hemp-derived intoxicants, for those of you that saw Ashley Schlupp talk to for our Carbon County Conversations last year in 2023 at the end of the year, this is what she was talking about, is our hemp-derived intoxicants. So anything derived from hemp, and for those of you in Carbon County, you guys do have a very large outlet there that sells hemp-derived intoxicants. It is out there by Subway, the old Subway building. Platt Hemp Company, I believe is the name of it. if you guys are curious about these products, go check it out. It really is eye-opening as to what's available. It is legal right now in Wyoming, and all the things that you will see there or that Ashley talked about are not legal in Colorado because they have legalized marijuana. And so it's just a very different thing in Wyoming, and it is legal, but that is different than being, there is nobody looking at this, so we don't really know, it's not regulated anyway, so we don't really know all of the facts about it. We do know some of the things, some of the ways that it affects people, but it is not regulated. And so that's one of the things, the reason Colorado made them illegal is because marijuana is regulated there. And so all of the products that are hemp-derived intoxicants in Wyoming are not regulated. So we don't fully know what's in them. They don't have to answer to the FDA, things like that. But so that's just, this is all sort of new information. So this is one of the reasons that we updated this website is to really have this hemp-derived intoxicants on here and have more information. And then, so you can click on, then you click on the cannabis, it's gonna go into cannabis and THC-derived intoxicants, and then prescription pills, counterfeit pills. So any of those, either, opioids, prescriptions. So this includes like misuse of prescriptions, so using somebody else's, counterfeit pills. As most of us know right now, there is a huge problem with fentanyl being in pills. It's being pressed into pills. And so it looks like something else when it's really fentanyl. So that's sort of those counterfeit pills. It looks like one thing, but it's another. And then other substances. When we talk about other substances, we're really talking about those other illicit drugs, injection drugs, cocaine, inhalants, heroin, methamphetamines, hallucinogens, ecstasy. So all of those are kind of included in those other substances. And it just gives a little bit of information on each of those. And then this is a campaign that Wyoming is, encouraging one pill can kill, and that has come from, fentanyl being pressed into pills, and so we just don't know. So if it's not a prescription, that's your prescription. Really talking about how one pill can kill, and knowing what you're taking, and especially when it's illicit. And so that's one of the campaigns that we're focusing on. You can click on this to learn more about the campaign in Wyoming and how we're utilizing it. There is some information on Narcan here. You can, how to get Narcan training online for free and how to access free Narcan for a group. There's lots going on in Wyoming with Narcan right now, and that could be a whole other topic. That may be something we look to in the future. But for those that don't know what Narcan is, it can just help somebody. It doesn't reverse an overdose. It just gets somebody breathing again. And so it cuts off those receptors that the opioids are attached to. It kind of cuts that line for a second. You can get a person breathing again. But with most Narcan, it depends on the dosage. You can see here the nasal spray is 4 milligrams. That will keep somebody alive for about 45 minutes. But after that point, if there is not another dose of Narcan administered, that the overdose happens again. And so one of the things we've been talking about a lot in Wyoming is just sometimes 45 minutes isn't enough. So even if everybody has Narcan, do they have multiple Narcan? Do they know that it doesn't reverse a drug overdose, that it really just is sort of a way to get somebody breathing again? And so what we're trying to talk about in Wyoming more is how do we do better about educating about Narcan and what it is, and then how it's utilized. It is not a miracle drug. You have to administer it again, and then you have to get somebody medical help. And so that's one of the tough parts about it, is that even if you get somebody breathing, you've got about a 45-minute window to get them to a hospital. And so in Wyoming, sometimes that's a hard thing to do. We may not have a hospital within 45 minutes in some places. So again, we could do a ton of information on Narcan. There's so much out there right now, But there is some really good information here. And like I said, this website is going to continue to be updated. Callan does a really great job of continuing to update it as new information comes out about each of these topics. Here's something to think about. Again, conversation starters. Understand where, why are they considering it? Why are they considering using? Again, it's some of those same risk factors that we talked about with alcohol: academic pressure, adverse childhood events, mental health, low self-esteem, things like that. So again, talking about those risk factors, why are youth using? These are some of the risk factors involved, some of the things that are going on in their life that lead them down a path of substance use. So here is cannabis, THC, hemp-derived intoxicants, and prescription. And again, in depth, just a little bit more what these risk factors are. And when you scroll over them, it just talks about it a little bit more, what those mean. And again, these are all risk factors that we see for all substance use. Each one maybe have a little bit more. Other substances, again, these are just more extensive risk factors, sensation-seeking experiment. All of these, again, are just more risk factors and giving you ideas of maybe things you're seeing in your youth life. Are they sensation-seeking? Do they have a group of peers that you feel like maybe are influencing them differently? Experimentation, coping. So all of these are just, and kids may not have all of them. They may have one, they may have 5, they may not have any of these, but these are all the ones that we do know. These are the ones that we have watched for many, many years when it comes to prevention, and know that it can lead youth down a different path. So again, identifying terminology. So with this, these are just some of the words that come up. They chose, there's not the phone there, they just did it a little bit differently. So again, you can scroll through to the next item a little bit. So other words for marijuana or cannabis, and knowing the difference between when I say just marijuana, I don't really mean that, but the difference between marijuana and concentrates are very different. So knowing if your youth is using some of this terminology, you know, if it's weed, pot, herb, trees, that's just the leafy green bud that most people are familiar with. The cannabis concentrates are something that came about in the last 12 years with the legalization of marijuana. Those are a concentrate, dabs, wax, shatter. I mean, there's so many names that I can't think of any more off the top of my head. There's oils, there's, you know, they're called different things, but know that there is a difference between those. Methamphetamines have different names that you may see or hear from youth. MDMA and heroin, sort of what those are classified as. You might hear MDMA, you might hear ecstasy, you might hear E, you might hear Molly, X, Wolves. So again, really understanding what you're hearing and why. Cocaine, prescription pills, psilocybin, so that's mushrooms. Those are the different words. GHB, synthetic drugs, and some of those synthetic drugs are ones that you can get at the Plat Hemp Company as well. Inhalants, so knowing what that is, what they're inhaling, you know, the canned air that we use to clean our keyboards, things like that. That's what some of those inhalants are. Drug paraphernalia, so understanding what those are. So again, this is just, it's not an exhaustive list. It's those that work on this trying to put together as much as we possibly know about it. And sometimes we might come up short. But again, this is really think outside the box and just know what you're looking for. So again, right here, what does it look like? Know the signs, what it might look like if your teen is using. And you can click through. Again, there's the behaviors, changes in behavior, physical signs, changes in appearance, social or school performance and attendance, social changes, financial issues, changes in sleep, paraphernalia, secrecy and deception. And as you can see with this tab from this topic, there is a lot more of these things to look for, things to think about, because there is such a wide variety under this tab that when we talk about substances. And so there is a lot to this topic, but this is a great starting point for people. And again, keeping kids safe from addiction. There's just a little YouTube video that sort of just gives you a look into the world, another way to learn about it. Again, here's your pulse check, some weights, some conversation starters, how to just engage your youth in conversations. Here's some other resources, Wyoming Recovery and Wyoming 201 if you're looking for other resources. And then here's your conversation tips. And again, if you click on it there or you click underneath, it takes you to a printout. So you can go to more conversation tips and you can print these out and have them available. So again, middle school, high school, and young adult. And then here's your action checklist. So again, a downloadable version that you can look at just to see if you're ready to have those conversations. At the end of this, these are more national websites, but if you're really looking for something that is not here, these are the websites that we use. The Department of Health partners with all of these when we are working on prevention in Wyoming. And then the contact information. And then the last tab is vaping. Slowly. And then same setup, having this conversation about vaping. In Wyoming, well, everywhere as we know, vaping sort of took off. And I think we were behind a little bit on this one, and now we have a lot of youth who are very much addicted to vaping. This is some of the data around vaping and some of that, but some of the information that we need is more about getting youth help. And some of that is on here, and then we can talk in depth. Next month, we're gonna talk about tobacco cessation in our communities. So again, here is some of those things: peer influence, advertising and marketing. Advertising and marketing is one of the biggest. So just a brief history on sort of media when it comes to underage use and alcohol. And if you recall, many years ago, you could see advertisements in magazines for smoking, for cigarettes, for lots of alcohol ads. And you still see a lot of alcohol ads on TV. You don't see as much for traditional cigarettes or chew. Well, when vaping came about, it was basically they found a loophole. So advertising and marketing has been a big influence with vaping for our youth. It's probably been one of the places that youth have learned the most about it. That is changing. And again, just like other nicotine products, we're realizing very quickly vaping is not healthier. It is not better for you. It was marketed originally as a way to stop using tobacco. It was a cessation tool. We're finding out that is not the case. People are actually, even when they take up vaping, they're utilizing it more than they were ever smoking or chewing. And so these are some of their risk factors, but they're even more than that. It's really that bigger influence out there, that environmental influence that we saw with vaping, family influence. A lot of people think this is better than smoking cigarettes, and they think it's just vape. When we say vape, they think it's just water, and that's what they're blowing out. But come to find out, there's a whole lot of chemicals within vape pens just to make them work, and we don't know what they're vaping. Is it nicotine? Is it Delta 8 products? Is it Delta 9 products? Is it, it can be, you can buy pods with all kinds of different drugs within them on the internet. So really, when we talk about vaping, we're covering so much more than nicotine. It was kind of a loophole that they were able to find that they're able to advertise this. That is changing. You'll notice, like in places where vape pens are sold, they're supposed to be less visible and not flashy advertised, some of those things. So it's slowly happening. Unfortunately, we have a generation of kids that are addicted to it. This was another one. Vape pens were an appetite suppressant. That was a big misnomer, that, you know, it'll help you lose weight, it'll help you keep skinny, some of those things. So these are those big environmental factors that we saw around vaping. So again, misinformation, curiosity, so misinformation about safety, so understanding it, curiosity and experimentation, it looked cool, you know, so along with that is that kind of goes along with that. Peer pressure, emotional or social coping mechanism. They did see a rise in this, especially around COVID, just as an emotional or social coping mechanism. And again, vaping really has some of those bigger environmental risk factors. So here we are again, and you can just read some of this. Again, identifying the terminology, knowing what your youth are talking about, you know, is just part of the process. What does it look like? So here again is know the signs, know if your youth is using unusual smells, behavioral changes, physical symptoms, unusual items. So a lot of parents said, well, I thought it was a thumb drive or a USB drive or something to charge their phones, or, you know, they all look different. They all look very different. And if you'd never seen one before, you wouldn't be sure what it was. A lot of them don't emanate a smell. You wouldn't smell something when you picked it up. The vape, some vapes aren't a smell that you can identify right away. Some do smell like sweet, different fruity flavors or sweet flavors. But again, if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know what it was. Changes in their social circle, are they changing who they hang out with? Financial changes, are they spending money on this? So those are what does it look like when you're wondering if youth are utilizing this. Know the signs. Here's how your teen might be getting their vape. So this is talking about how they get it. Vape shops, although age of 21 it's 21 now for tobacco as well. So alcohol and tobacco are both 21. But we found when it was still 18, there's a lot of kids in high school that were 18, so that's where a lot of them were getting it. Now, it took a couple years I think it's been in effect for almost 2 years, that there were some places that were still selling to 18-year-olds, and so the use of law enforcement to enforce that age change has been a necessity to make sure that our youth can't walk into a vape shop. Peers, again, our kids in high school do know 21-year-olds, so it becomes the same with alcohol. Do they know somebody that's 21? Do they work together somewhere? Things like that, so that's where they could be getting it. Parents or siblings, you know, a lot of times we do see on the prevention needs assessment, siblings is where a lot of youth get their alcohol, and sometimes parents, and a lot of parents, you know, we've done some parent groups, focus groups across the state, and they said they just didn't know. They didn't know that it was something harmful. And so again, this is also really great parent education so that they know what they're up against. So then moving down, so the hidden dangers. So there is limited data out there, but what we've got available is here. So what nicotine does, the harmful chemicals that are within those vape pens, THC, CBD, synthetic cannabinoids are all things that can be in vape pens. So those are just some of the things that we know. Again, we don't know all the risks. I mean, if you think about how long it took us to understand how harmful cigarettes were, we're in that same boat with vaping. It's going to take a while to know all of the health ramifications of vaping. How are they hiding it? So this is just a little video that shows, you know, how some youth are hiding it. Again, here's your pulse check. How's your day been? Just those simple conversation starters that can lead to a more in-depth conversation. And then again, your conversations by age. And again, you can click on it, or you can go underneath each picture, vaping. There's a vaping fact sheet and more conversation tips. And again, you can find all of those on the Google Drive as well. And it goes through the 3 age groups that we're really targeting with this campaign. And then here's your action checklist. And then if you need more local help. And then again, everyone at the bottom is just a quiz that helps you feel more comfortable and know if this is something that you're ready to talk about with your youth or youth that you work with. So we've been through all the topics. And again, this will take you back to the homepage. It's whywetalk.org. It's very easy to find. If you put in whywetalk.org, it pops right up. And so it's very easy to find. So I think I'll open it up for questions. If there's anybody in the room that has questions that I can answer or anything like that.
And I don't see any questions at this time, Tracy.
Okay.
Looks like. But again, if you do, please leave them in the comments and we will send them over to Tracy and get them answered for you, or give you the place where you can go and look those up.
Yes, absolutely. If you have any questions, just reach out through Facebook Live, and I can. My email is very simple. It's communityisprevention at Gmail, and you can reach out to me anytime with questions about any of these topics that we talked about today, or any questions about the Carbon County Prevention Network. Our Carbon County Conversations is a partnership with Carbon County Memorial Hospital and Carbon County Higher Ed and the Carbon County Prevention Network. And stay tuned. Wait, every month on this Tuesday, we will have a conversation about these topics.
Awesome. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next month.